Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today, and just want to say how excited I am for the Benchmark team to be our first Trailblazer interview. And by Trailblazer, I mean Dementia Live is celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. And so in honor of that, we are having interviews with our trailblazers, those who started with us in the very beginning, of which the Benchmark Group was one of the first. And so thrilled to have you all. So grateful for your time that we have together to just share about how you've used the program, your role with Benchmark, and be able to just have a good chat together. So I'll start with Michelle Tristani. Michelle, you have been with Benchmark a very long time as corporate memory director. So I am going to let you just share a little bit about Benchmark and introduce your team, and we'll go from there.
Right. Thanks so much, Pam, and I'm, honored to be here with AGE-u-cate and yourself, and with my colleagues at Benchmark. Benchmark is a growing assisted living and memory care specialty organization. We specialize in human connection, and we are growing even beyond New England at this point, into Virginia, New Jersey, and we are already expanding our communities in New York. So we're taking our expertise and we're taking you with us to every single community that opens within Benchmark that is owned and operated by Benchmark. So I've been with Benchmark since 2016 and through our COVID years. And it has been, seems like yesterday, it goes by so quick, but with that, since 2016 and our partnership, I can't tell you how impactful AGE-u-cate and Dementia Live has been for us. All of us today are Benchmark associates and Dementia Live coaches. So we have with us today Melanie Barberi, who is our Senior Director of Programming and Engagement. And Melanie has been with us longer than myself. When did you start, Melanie?
2013, actually. So I'm creeping up on 12 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And
happy to be here. Thank you.
We also have Heather Jagodowski, who is our Area Director of Memory Support Services, and she supports at least 25 communities for Benchmark. So thank you, Heather, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And last but certainly not least, we have the personality of Angela Rosato, who is a Benchmark boomerang who has been with us for many, many years. And Angela is a mentor and expert in memory care, supporting residents, families, and friends, as well as all Benchmark associates that she serves. So thank you, Angela, for joining us as a memory care director, mind and memory director.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. It's a great introduction to really passionate people at Benchmark. And that's one thing that I noticed from my very first meeting and training with the team back in 2016 is the commitment and the passion that your team members have for what you do. It's not just a job. I think Benchmark has always brought a team together that it's your calling, and you have just that camaraderie among your team that is so impactful as well, in your mission and what you do in caring for others. So what a great partner to have in someone who shares our mission. So let's start talking. I'll let anybody share who wants to start, but talk a little bit about how Dementia Live has impacted you and the staff that you train.
Well, I can start us off by saying that I really believe that Dementia Live has enabled me to be a better trainer, or to be the best trainer that I could possibly be in a very complex diagnosis, as we know. So that said, I almost feel sometimes that Dementia Live should be used as a hiring tool, because there is so much that we do every day, and there are a lot of customers and a lot of expectations. And to meet those expectations, we have to find a way to cope. So while we do that, with Dementia Live, we're able to enable associates who join the benchmark team to be able to know what it's like to be in the shoes, as much as we could possibly be, in the stage of middle stage dementia. And because it is the longest stage, really, we're able to take that and help them to understand. There's a big difference between sympathy and empathy, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But with that, I've sometimes wanted to use Dementia Live as a hiring tool, because it tells us how a person responds under stress and how they can really put themselves in someone else's shoes. So sometimes, Pam, I've even wanted to take a measure of baseline blood pressure and heart rate and then compare it to the Dementia Live experience room blood pressure and heart rate, and to see what it does to us, and to then in the empowerment session after, to really be able to take it even one step further and say, hey, they're in this state. The person living with dementia is in a continuous state of heightened anxiety and frustration. That's one of the most common emotions that we hear about in the empowerment session. So being anxious and frustrated. So not being able to relieve that is really a concerning component to it. So I know we wanted to cover a bit on empathy too, and speaking with Heather recently, talking about empathy and how we can really put people, particularly benchmark associates, in that state. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it, Heather?
Absolutely. I think that you really never really understand a person until you consider things from their point of view. And this tool is one of the most powerful training tools and impactful training tools that we have in our toolbox. And it really puts you in the shoes of someone with dementia and gives you that understanding of, wow, things aren't easy for this person. What can I do to make things a little easier for them? Can I slow down when I give them instructions? Can I give them one-step instructions at a time? Just simple things like that, that I think when it comes to being a care partner, we can sometimes take these things for granted and forget what it feels like to be the person that needs the support. So this program really empowers our associates to be loving and caring and empathetic. And I just offered this program yesterday, Pam, and one of the associates was moved to tears. And I thought, what a great hire. Like, I can't believe we get to work with this person. This is so wonderful.
Yeah, that's, when it all comes down to it, isn't that the most important? that we have that level of empathy and care and compassion for someone. All the other thing we can learn, all those other, the tools and the toolbox that we need to know. But I came from this from the fact that I was a caregiver, and when I saw my parents go into a community, when I looked at what was so most important as a daughter was, are they being loved? Are they being cared for? When I walk out the door, am I going to feel like they are being embraced like I would embrace them? I mean, the little things are just that. The big things are for a family member is, wow, I just want them to be embraced and like I said, I just want them to be loved.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's great. Anybody else?
I'll just jump in and say one of the most powerful things that I appreciate about the tool is the waiting, right? So we give folks a set of tasks to do, and we say, this experiment is going to be 7 minutes or 8 minutes long, and we're not able to speak to you during the experiment. You can, speak to your peers, all of that. But one of the most powerful things to me is the waiting, because someone might finish their tasks in 3 minutes or 4 minutes and someone else might have given up and sat down, and someone else might have just, shut off and said, I'm not doing this. But during that 3 to 4 minute waiting period is the part of the experiment that I find is the most powerful, because there's no one to ask what's happening next. There's no one to say, what are we doing? How much longer? What should we do next? And that's so often how our residents feel. I think going through the day is, who do I ask? Nobody seems to know what's happening next, or I'm feeling very lost. And I think for some of the people that I've done the experiment with or gone through the process with, that waiting was very hard for them to not be able to say, for anyone to tell them, this is what's happening next in your day. And for them to be able to go back and take that back when they're working for our residents, to be able to communicate clearly and say, I'm here. I want you to know this is what's happening next. We're here. If you have a question, you come over here and ask me. I'm going to be checking in on you, so that we're communicating well, and so that people always do have a feeling of feeling safe and knowing what's happening next for them. So that's something that's very powerful. So I know in the beginning they'll say, well, I'm done, can I take these off? And so we make sure that we explain to them, this is for the duration of this experiment. You need to keep all of your equipment on. So
Yeah, and you do see a lot of frustration at that point, but they're learning, and that is impactful. Absolutely.
Just wanted to jump in. As Michelle had said earlier, I'm a benchmark boomerang, meaning that I left for a little while and came back. But altogether, I've worked for Benchmark for over 23 years. And we didn't have this 20 years ago. We didn't have this tool to help train and have people have a clear understanding of what's going on. And when I came back and we had the tool, it was wonderful to be able to share with new associates, but it was wonderful to be able to share with existing associates or associates who had had it a while back and wanted a refresher. And so we were able to do the refresher with them, because one of the things that even staff in Harbor who's working so hard all the time, you forget that piece of empathy. You don't want to feel that way. And oftentimes with newer associates, when they're trying to take the gear off, they just want to take the gear off. They don't want to wait. It's too much. It's overwhelming. I was sharing with Michelle at the end of ours, after our recap session, oftentimes I'll say to them, so when you're in Harbor or when you're in traditional, remember, you took your headphones off. Our residents don't get to take their headphones off. So that's something that should always help us when we're trying to deal with a situation or redirect a resident or calm a resident who's having a hard day. You took your headphones off. So now it's your job to help them find whatever that piece is. And the importance of empathy, I think, is a theme that goes through Benchmark, which is important, but really in the communities, that's a day-to-day lesson that we continue to share with associates. We continue to, someone might need help and we switch off so that everyone has the time that they need. It can be very challenging. So having that moment to reflect back on, oh, that's right, I remember how this felt, is so impactful that I don't think we could ever really explain it through a Zoom. So impactful.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
The empowerment session, I know you take that as seriously as we do, that bringing it all together. It's not just the aha moment in the experience, but it's then walking that participant through. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about your feelings. Let's bridge what we've learned with what we're going to apply. Um, and talk about that.
Well, I often will say to them, we are going in the prep portion as we're gearing up. I will often say, we are going to talk about this after. It would be cruel to send you on your way and about your day without talking about this. So oftentimes, when you ask people, okay, we have the equipment off, everything it's so funny. I forget which one of us said that they want to take off the equipment. And when I train coaches, I will joke with them and say, you only have two hands. So collect the headsets, turn off the battery and to conserve it, but you only have two hands. Have them take the gloves and the glasses and put them on the table in the empowerment area, because otherwise they don't even see that you have two hands. They just want to get rid of it. So with that, when you head into that empowerment session and everyone is like looking around relieved and asking, give me an emotion. How do you feel? How did you feel during the 7 minutes? People will start talking about the tasks and how many tasks they remembered. And I often will say to them, all right, those of us who are type A, you've got to let that go. Give me an emotion, because that's where it's at. And then they will, with that little prompt, they will completely give us, I get overwhelmed, anxious, angry, frustrated, but mostly anxious and frustrated is, as I said before, what we get. And many people will be concerned and they will say, is this what they hear? Is this what they hear? And fortunately, I can reassure them and tell them, no, this is not what they hear throughout the day. But if we don't manage the environment, this approaches what they could hear. So this mirrors being in a poorly managed dining room in a skilled nursing center in the mid-90s when we didn't know what we know now. So truly, it puts you in this situation, and you're not able to take these headsets off, or at least we encourage them not to. So they feel relieved when I tell them it's not what they hear. And then we begin to talk about what can we do, both making meaningful connections and modifying the environment, paying attention at shift change. And it just morphs into this conversation of what do we do throughout the day that we can put our best foot forward and be aware of the sounds and maybe the glare from a window or a light, what we can do as a team to be aware of it. So that shift change really is a good example of that headset and the confusion sound.
And you know, Pam, we use this tool a lot for outreach as well. We've done sessions for first responders and you know, police teams and family members where we'll hold sessions where we have family members come in to go through the experience. And that is just, as Michelle said, extremely powerful. We've had, you know, adult sons, grown men. Honestly, I'm going to say the word sobbing because in the particular situation that really resonated with me, there was two grown men sitting on the couch following the experience, you know, really, and just saying I had no idea. And we did explain to them that the headset is not, you know, a representation of what your mom is actually hearing throughout the day, but explained it as Michelle did. But just they just kept repeating, I had no idea. I had no idea. So the empowerment session also, well, the experience, I think can be very overwhelming for families, and the empowerment session very therapeutic for families to be able to talk through what they learned, to know that we're using this as a way to train our associates so that that their loved ones are cared for in a way that minimizes this poor experience. But it's just very, very powerful for them as well to be able to walk in those shoes. And I certainly, for, you know, a good word I think is patience. I think I hear that a lot, is that this increases my patience level. But I hear that from our associates and from our families. Is it just makes you step back and answer the question of when is lunch the 50th time, the same way that you answered it the first time. Because you know that folks are not doing this to annoy you, but rather they're, you know, they're having these experiences. So it's not just powerful for our associates, it's powerful all around.
We love to hear that our partners are using this as outreach in their communities. It's very important to us as an organization. That was a mission that I had from day one, was this is to be shared. Everybody is affected by dementia, and that, you know, as we know, I don't think that's an exaggeration. Literally everyone today knows someone and is being affected in some way. So this needs to be, the education and the awareness is more important than ever. So thank you. I know it takes time to do first responder training, to do an outreach event, to share it with families, but it's, as you all know, it's very critical that we better educate our communities, and the first responders are your partners in the community. So it's a domino effect, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Really appreciate and took so much, you know, some of the things you've said about the empowerment session, really, you
Can I
know.
just add, Pam, too, that, you know, Heather was telling me yesterday that she was at a senior center also holding a Dementia Live session. And I can't say enough, not only does AGE-u-cate train us, but they train us in a way that brings the experiential learning to us as well. So the empowerment tools and all of the coach resources, additionally, they supplement our ability to really help the participants to be the best care partners that they can be. So I think you have, what, maybe 105 I saw the other day, empowerment tools on the AGE-u-cate website under coach products. My favorite is the empowerment tool on noise. And they're short, they're sweet, and they really help every benchmark associate, as well as family members, as well as the first responders and other people who we offer this to. So thank you.
Well, thank you, because it's our partner, our program partners who have helped us grow that Coach Resource Library. It is the conversations we have with our partners and the feedback that we get. Often we'll simply get an email that says, "Hey, do you have anything on caregiver burnout?" And we didn't, so we created it. And truly, I feel like, that's why you're our family, because it has been that incredible feedback from all of you who are doing the work every day that has helped us to grow that library. And we continue to grow it. And it's all the feedback that we get. Yeah.
It's a wonderful resource.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll always
you.
take suggestions. You can email me directly, any of us.
Our one of our senior directors of learning and development always reminds us that we only recall a small percentage of a lecture training, a presentation. But when it comes to experiential and the emotional memory that is created, there is an increased amount of information that we recall because it's emotionally charged. And I can't say really enough about how Dementia Live, you do not have to sit. The associates who come to the training expect to be sitting at a table or in a seat without a table even. And they might even say to us, well, I need to sit down, or that's okay, just for a few minutes. But this training, we're going to be up, we're going to be moving, we're going to be engaged. And then they understand once they enter that experience room. So it's definitely something that is a shorter training, but I think we get much more out of it.
Agreed.
Much better than sitting.
The exponential rate of retention from experiential learning is astounding. And I'm sure you've had people that have come in, staff that have told you, "I've never forgotten that. I'll never forget that, how I felt." It goes back to what we all know. It's how people feel that impacts them, and that's why this training is a different delivery, and it's certainly different in how people retain that knowledge.